The magic of Skywater because of what it did for my daughter. Many of you have asked what happened. Basically, my daughter Skylar was born back in May of 2009 with a severe case of gastroschisis. She was literally born inside out. That's Skylar, the day she was born. When this happened, we were just completely devastated, and didn't know what to do, and so we just hung on for dear life. And here's a picture of Skylar literally hanging onto my finger. She was really tiny. At which point I decided that I was going to step up to the plate, and I promised her that whatever it took I would do, and short of moving heaven and earth, if I could, I would. Here she was hooked up to all of the equipment. She went through 2 different colostomies and a resection. She was in the hospital for a year and a half, full year, 2 weeks shy of her first birthday, actually. Then when she came home, she was on feeding tubes, feeding ports. That's where it actually goes right straight through the stomach, and we would force feed her. To say that it was overwhelming was an understatement. We thought once we finally brought her home with 100 hours a week of home health care. It was unbelievable. Some of our trials had just begun. With acute dehydration syndrome, you can have a good day, and then the body just shuts down, and it almost excretes water. And this is her just a few hours later after we had revived her at the hospital. Well, that happened, and I called Scottish Rite, and I was stunned when the emergency room doctors met me at the valet for the Children's Hospital and took her out of the car. At that moment, I knew this was a bad deal. Triage is the way that they rank mortality at the worst wounds. Well, if you have an emergency room doctor taking your child out of the car, that's a really bad day. When that happened, I became a hydration expert by default. We tried waters, water filters, ionizers, nutrition, alkaline water machines, alkaline water ionizers. I have been through the gamut of them. I have personally owned and or used more than 8 different water machines. I ended up with heavy metal issues, corrosion, a lot of mold in my whole family, and that's where I became an opponent of alkaline water ionizers. To say that we were having a rough time with Skylar is a bit of an understatement. She was on force feed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She had liquid stools constantly. Every morning was literally a nightmare. So it was a rough time for us. And then there was Amy and her SD501. It was kind of funny. She came into my office on October 12th, and she's like, "Oh, you got to try our water. It's different." And as God would have it, fate would have it, whatever, Amy was laying on the table when we got the bad news about Skylar. Her test results had come back in, and she had failure to thrive, anemia, blood in the stool, poor fat and protein metabolism. She was basically a failure to thrive. And Amy pipes up and says, "Dr. Michael, Skylar doesn't have to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water. I'll give it to you for free." Not the thing to say to a parent who's tried as much as we had. And I said, "Look, I'm done arguing with you this. Bring me your water. I'll give it to her. I'll cross my T's, I'll dot my I's. In 30 days when we run these tests, I'll prove to you that it doesn't work." So, end of the day, I took it home, handed it to my wife and said, "Here's the water for Skylar. It's from Amy. Just let her try it." And I explained what was going on, and we didn't really have anything else to do or try because we had been doing everything else. There was nothing else left. There was no stone unturned. And within 4 short days, I was eating crow for breakfast and needed some water to wash it down. Amy had given us the water on a Thursday, and on Monday, the charts last 3 or 4 days. But in that 4 days, 80% of her symptoms were gone. The belly had softened up, the C. diff, the smell had started to dissipate, the cramping was gone, the bowel sounds were gone. In fact, in 10 days, I was shaving, and I heard her scream and say that there was a snake in the bathroom, and I went running, and it was her first solid bowel movement. She actually thought that a snake had crawled out of her belly. 6 months after that, we removed all the feeding ports, which was just mind-boggling. Why I personally feel the SD501 is the best, I tried 8 or more alkaline water ionizers. Bottom line is it worked for Skylar. Was it the water? Yeah, because it was the only thing left to try. The short answer is it produces 7 types of highly bioavailable water. It is already endorsed by thousands of hospitals and thousands of doctors and used in hospitals all over the world. The drinking water it creates has high levels of hydrogen, oxygen, and antioxidants. It can also be used for FDA-level disinfecting, cleaning, food prep, and cosmetic. Within 6 months, this was Skylar, a little ballerina. It's hard to believe that 6 months prior to these pictures, she was on feeding tubes, and there she is today. So why the water? Well, the difference between the healthiest person and the sickest person is basically broken down into 2 parts. Your muscles, ligaments, bone, organs, tissues, minerals, all these things add up to 28% of the patient, or the person. The other 72% of every person on the planet is just water. What we found out is not all water is equal. Skylar would say that Daddy kept his promise to move heaven and earth, and we've used this to try and help everybody else, understand that they need to just give it a try. Bottom line is, it is the best machine that I have found. The only thing that I think may rival that is the Kangen 8, which has 8 plates. I've used it. It's phenomenal. We recommend it.